Hello and welcome. It is, what day is it? Well, it's definitely not episode 25. Let me tell you that much. Let's nip that in the bud right away. There we go. What day is it? It is July 15th, 2021. Welcome to TheoryCraft episode 24. It's Human Day today. And what an exciting day that is. The last episode we did on Human was interesting to say the least. But today is going to be even more interesting because for the first time, today's episode is based on something that I just found out about yesterday. And I had a completely different episode planned for today. I had different replays, I had different notes, I had everything put together. It was going to be a little bit similar to last week's, but that all changed this morning because I saw some new replays got uploaded, and then I was like, okay, let's do it on this. So I quickly, when I woke up this morning, went through a bunch of replays, found 3 of them that I think will work, and we changed what today's episode is on. It's the Call of the Wild, baby. That's what it is. That's what it is. So it's the 16th in New Zealand. Well, you can't make everyone happy, can you? Yeah, but we changed the episode. It's totally different. Totally different what it was going to be. But I think the strat's kind of cool because it's been a while, especially for humans, since we see many changes in the meta. Spoiler, I was going to do a Pally Rifles today. I had some replays put together. I was going to do kind of a mixed episode with Pally Rifles and a couple of other strategies, but, there hasn't been a lot of innovations with Human aside from kind of like seeing Pally Rifles a little bit more. There's been a couple of weird strategies, but this sort of new style that we're seeing against Farseer Headhunters, although it may not be standard, it may not be the best strategy, and it may not be the strategy that we see for a long time, it's kind of cool. It's new and it's cool and it seems to work at the highest level. And, people are still kind of getting it figured out, but let's talk about it today. Let's talk about it. This will be a fun one. And it's not a strategy I know too much about. I only just, like I said, saw it for the first time yesterday, and I kind of had to take a second glance at it before I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. And of course, then we saw it again at WGL. I don't know if it was last night or the night before. And it was, pretty common for the humans against orcs. So it's nice to see it. It's nice to see the humans try out some new stuff, all right? Because it really is, being somebody that watches pretty much every replay that I possibly can and watches a lot of the games, Human is the race that seems to have the least innovation, which may be just a mechanic of the race itself. Maybe it's because there's few players that are also prone to innovating. There's not, Moon plays Night Elf, Lyn plays Orc, 120 plays Undead. Those are kind of the innovators of those races. Do we have that? Well, we had TH and Infi, but they're no longer playing it. So we don't really have those big innovative forces for Human, which might be the reason why we see the least amount of growth, so to speak. Or it could also be Human is kind of figured out. It could be either sides of it. I don't exactly know what the answer is for it, but all I know is that Human does not innovate a ton, at least in recent times. And definitely Farseer Headhunters, I already did an episode on it. I did an episode on a strategy that I sort of introed that strategy by saying, I don't think this is the best way to deal with Farseer Headhunters, but here is a way that people are dealing with Farseer Headhunters. That was the last episode I did on Human, which was fast expanding against Farseer Headhunters, which, divided a lot of people. A lot of people weren't so happy with that episode, which was kind of weird because it's just, here's what people are doing. Here's what I see, but today's going to be a little bit different because this strategy I think is actually a good strategy. Right? I think it's actually a good strat. And I think it's not going to last forever. It's one of those strats that I don't think we're going to be seeing this strat in a year. I don't think we're going to see it 100% of games against Orc, but I do think it's worth knowing and worth exploring and worth thinking about. Yeah? So today's episode is titled Boom, 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 boom. Sock unleashes the beast. Blood Mage first. That would be cool, Crota. That has been a strategy in the past on specifically Amazonia. But it is what it is. AKM style. Now, this is called Sock Unleashes the Beast. And the reason why Sock is in the title, not to say that he's the only person doing this. It was just all Sock replays that I was able to find of this strategy. So I'm sure Che Miko's doing it. I'm sure Fortitude's doing it. I'm sure a lot of the European humans are doing it. Hawk, Todd, Blade, all those guys. They're probably doing this as well. But Yeah, it's only going to be Sock replays today, and I can't complain with that because I love Sock. I love Sock. He's one of my favorite players. I did the very first episode of the show specifically on Sock against Orc. This is the third Human against Orc episode that we've done, which is just, you know, kind of how it falls. But we've also done Human Mirror and I believe Human against Undead. But we've done a lot of Human against Orc. But that's all right. That's all right. It saves us room to do 10 episodes on Human versus Night Elf in the future. And yeah, I'm going to try to do that Pally Rifles episode eventually as well. But I didn't really have the best replays, if I'm honest with you, when it came to the Pally Rifles, so. Hey, Yurko94. 39 months. He says, again, great cast, Bidu. I'm assuming you mean from WGL earlier. Didn't get to see it because that is at 3 a.m. my time, so didn't get to watch much of WGL, but saw the replays. Saw the replays. Orc vs. Human is a fun matchup to play and watch. Yeah, it definitely is. So there's kind of been two sides to this this strategy. It's been based around playing heavy footmen with defend in the early game, and then getting a Tavern Hero at tier 2. The Tavern Hero we're going to be covering today will be a Beastmaster, but it's also been done with a Panda, but we're not going to be talking about the Panda side of things today. Maybe in a future episode, maybe I'll even do another Human episode this month. Who knows? Because if there's a lot of developments with this sort of with this meta, why would I cover something that people already sort of know? If there is a new strategy, I might as well just do an episode on it in the future. So maybe if this whole Beastmaster Panda Tavern Hero stuff develops a little bit, maybe I'll just do another episode later in the month. But we'll see. So for now, we're just going to leave the Panda out of it. We're not going to be talking about the Panda, and just simply because I couldn't find a lot of replays. If there was enough replays, I would cover everything in the whole wide world, but I can only cover what I have the replays for, and I just happen to have enough replays for Beastmaster. So that's what we're going to be talking today, and that's why it's called Sock Unleashes the Beast. Make sense? So let's talk a little bit about the strategy. So of course, we're still going to open with Archmage. Still going to open there, right? And of course, the most standard way to open with Archmage, we talked about it in episode 1. We talked a lot about this matchup, and there's two sides of it. There's teching quickly and trying to get into rifles. Rifles are generally a timing-based strategy because they're very strong early on, and then they fall off a little bit later when the Torn Chieftain from the Orc gets a little bit stronger. So the idea with Rifle Caster is to tech up quickly, get a strong army early, and then push the Orc, or take map control, take big creep camps, kill their expansions, stuff like that. It's a timing-based strategy. There's another side of things where you... Can we get writing inside the lines? Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. There's the other side to this, which is... Can I do this? Here. How's that? How's that? Although not all the writing is going to be on the lines. It's not perfect. Now, there's the other side. There's the Rifle Caster, and then there's a 2 Sanctum, which generally you tech a little bit slower, you play a little bit safer, you play a little bit more footman heavy. With Rifle Caster, you might play as few as 3 footmen, maybe 4 footmen, right? But with 2 Sanctum, in some cases, you might even play up to 7 footmen. What does playing heavier footmen allow you to do? Well, especially against Farseer Headhunters, it allows you to play defended footmen. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to be talking about defended footmen. This might not be on the line. No, it's on the line. You know, you just can't do anything about it, can you? You just can't do anything. Maybe I should get a camera of an actual notepad on my desk and actually write on a notepad. Now that's an idea and a half. Yeah, maybe I'll think about that. And then you guys can actually read my writing, and I'll get to practice writing stuff out with a pencil. How about that in the future? That would be dope. Now that'd be dope. I'll have to think about it. I need to get another camera though. First I need to get a camera for me, a better camera for me, and then maybe I'll use this camera to write on. That'd be dope. So that's what we're also going to be talking about today. I'm going to talk about lots of defended footmen because this strategy revolves around getting a little bit of a slower tech, going a little bit more footman heavy, and getting defend. And that's really good because we're going up against Farseer Headhunters pretty much always nowadays. We're no longer playing against grunts. We're playing against headhunters, so getting these high footman numbers and getting enough footmen to justify an investment into defend is really good. So this strategy, you start with an Archmage still. You go for defended footmen, you slow down the tech a little bit. And then when you reach tier 2, there was sort of a couple sides to it. You either reach tier 2 very early with the Rifle Caster build, and then you try to power creep up the Mountain King, right? You try to power creep him up because, again, you're trying to hit a power spike. With having the earlier tech, having the strong rifles in the early game, you're trying to creep the Mountain King up early to level 3, and then hit a strong, like, 8.5 minute timing. That's the Rifle Caster side of things. But then with the slower tech side of things, you're normally more going for harassment. Why are you going for harassment? Well, because your tech is a little bit delayed because you're going heavier on footmen, and you're also getting defend early, so your tech is going to be a little bit delayed because you've invested more gold and lumber into these things, so you want to slow down the orcs' tech as well if possible. So this strategy will also be more harass heavy. Right? And also the fact, that's a good point, Subconscious, it says in the chat, the defend doesn't makes you better against burrows, essentially, which is good. Yes, so you get footmen and you get defend, and if you want to go harass heavy, it goes hand in hand. You're able to harass with the defended footies very early on. What's also very good with this harass heavy style, well, here's where it gets real neat. Generally, people will go for a Mountain King. That was the standard for, it's been the standard for probably about a year now, maybe even longer. We've seen Naga at times, we've seen Blood Mage at times, Paladin even, Panda a little bit recently, but in the past, people always used to play Beastmaster, and now people are playing Beastmaster again, because this harass-heavy style goes hand in hand with a Beastmaster. And then because our tech is slow, because our tech is a little bit slow, and we're playing a little bit more aggressive, right, because we're getting more footmen, we're getting defend early, we're delaying our tech, we're playing harass heavy, so we're not able to creep up our secondary hero. So we're really not going to be able to hit much of a timing, right? Because we're not going to have a very strong army early on. We're investing into pretty much footmen, which are going to be good at the harass, but not good at an actual fight. So what do we go into? Of course, we don't go into Rifle Caster. We're never going to be able to hit that rifle timing because we're not going to have a high-level Mountain King. Our tech is already slow, and we're invested into so many footmen. So, of course, we would go into 2 Sanctum. What's the strength of 2 Sanctum? Well, it's weaker early on, because you need to get things like Adept on your Priests, Adept on your Sorks. You need to get enough of each caster. You need to get Control Magic on your Breakers, and you need to have enough Breakers to have a nice front line. Right, so this is the sort of next step to it. Because we can't hit that strong timing, we just go harass heavy, and then we invest into the late game sort of army, which would be 2 Sanctum. Thank you, Lucas XD. Appreciate you. So those are sort of the 5 really, really general steps of this strategy and why we're taking each of these steps. Right, so you still open with Archmage, you go heavy defended footman, you harass heavily, you get a Beastmaster, continue the harass, and then you go into 2 Sanctum and you try to get into the late game as much as you can. Now, so that's the general overall premise of this strategy. Now let's talk about the Beastmaster, because really we've seen all of this before. We've seen everything before. The only thing that's new in this strategy is the Beastmaster. That's it. So let's talk a little bit about the Beastmaster. So what are some of the strengths and what are some of the weaknesses of the Beastmaster? Let's start with strengths. Who could tell me a strength of the Beastmaster specifically against Orc? What are some of the strengths? Now, there's a very obvious one, and there's a couple not so obvious ones, like later on into the game. Alpha male. Reasonable. The Mountain King might be as well, though. I'll tell you one. Well, no Dispel. I would say lack of Dispel would maybe be an advantage. So, well, maybe not lack of Dispel. Of course, you have Shamans, but the cool thing about canceling Healing Salves, Blink, Bash Bear. He's a Tavern Hero, so he compensates for the delayed tech. That's a very, very good point. because or else your Mountain King's late, your Creeping's late, you're at a hero disadvantage the whole time. Piercing damage, good. Also worth noting, normal damage from the bear. So piercing damage against, say, the Shamans and the Kodos, and then normal damage from the bear against the Headhunters. Greater for creeping. You could argue that. The summons are good at power creeping. Quillbeast's good against burrows. Good against constructing buildings, even. Reveal from Hawk. We're probably not going to see too much Hawk from the Beastmasters. That was very standard back in the day against Blade Master to reveal the invis. It was also standard because orcs used to go more grunt heavy. They also didn't have reinforced defenses, so you could use the magic damage of the Hawk on the burrows. But nowadays we're probably going to see more Quillbeast and Bear. Timing your second hero so you can push burrows closer to the opponent's base. Hawk doesn't like Beastmaster. No, I mean the ability Hawk on the Beastmaster. Hawk has actually been playing Mountain King still, but he'll probably try this out. So yeah, here's some of the advantages. So I would say early tier 2 pressure, because again we want to compensate for that that late tech that we have, because we're slowing down our tech and investing in a more footman and defend. We want to compensate for that late tech by doing some pressure. And what's a really good way to pressure? Well, with water elementals and Quillbeasts or bears, and a lot of defended footmen on the orc space. So Beastmaster's really good at early tier 2 pressure. This is the exact same reason that he used to be used with Talons with Night Elf against Orc, or even Human used to use him against Orc as well for like the Sky Push back in the day. And this is another point that takes a little bit of explaining, but it makes sense in practice. Difficult to counter with Shamans. So obviously, the Beastmaster himself is not difficult to counter with Shamans, right? Purge, purge, the Quillbeast is gone. Purge, 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 the bear is gone, right? But you imagine a 50 supply orc army has about 4 Shamans. Each of those Shamans maybe have about 2 or 3 purges, right? And now what do they have to purge when you're going to Sanctum with lots of casters? That includes Slow from Sorks. You have an Archmage with Water Elementals, and now you have a Beastmaster with Bear and Quillbeasts. So now you have to purge all the Slow and 3 summons. You have 4 things to get rid of. And also control magic on the Breakers may steal the Orcs' Wolves. So there you have a 5th thing you have to get rid of, all with Purge. Now back in the day, this wasn't so much of a problem because you go for Spirit Walkers. Spirit Walkers have an AoE Dispel. Right, they can get rid of all the slow, and they can even, if you're lucky, hit a couple of the summons as well with the AoE. Whereas Purge, you can get rid of the summons very easily, but you kind of have to pick your poison. You can't get rid of the slow from the sorceresses and all the summons. So either your army is stuck in a slow trap, or you're getting killed by all the summons. Pick your poison. You're not going to be able to get rid of all of them. And more importantly, if the fights go on longer and you're able to kite the orc with the slow that they cannot get rid of unless they're using speed scrolls over and over again, you're going to have much more sustain because you have Brilliance Aura. And again, you're going to be the one with units left over because you have infinite mana. Not infinite, but if you have Aura level 2, you pretty much can continuously summon these units. You're going to have units left over in the way of Quillbeasts and Bears and Water Elementals, and the Orc isn't going to have anything if you guys are trading evenly. So yes, that's a good way to put it. So you overload the Shaman mana. Yeah, absolutely. Perfectly put. Overload Shaman mana. Yeah, very good. So not to say Shamans aren't good against the Beastmaster, but the overall strategy is meant to make the Shamans not be the ideal choice. Yeah. Which is a very important thing with this sort of a strategy. If orcs were still going Spirit Walkers, maybe this wouldn't be as good as it is, right? All right. And right. Yeah. And also it's worth just noting that we said this already, but like just the units themselves, the Quillbeasts and the Bears, they're actually a pretty good counter to just the units that the orc is building. So the bear and the Quillbeast, the bear counters the headhunters, the Quillbeast counters the shamans and the kodos. It's just, they're generally just good units as well. They're not suboptimal damage dealers. They're very strong. And combined having a bear or a quillbeast early with having 7 defended footmen and pressuring the orc who only has 6 headhunters, that's what the orcs are going to have. When you're in their base with 7 defended footmen, an archmage level 2 most times, and a beastmaster level 1, they're going to have 6 headhunters and a grunt on the way. That's it. How do you deal with all these things with just headhunters? You don't really. MK would be better versus a hit and run style. Yeah, I think you could say that, but you know, you already have Sorks against something like a hit and run style. And honestly, maybe not really if you think about it. Against the hit and run style, you need very good scouting to see, because orcs playing hit and run is generally paired with towered expansions, right? So you need very good scouting, and you also need some way to trap the units that keep hitting your base. So you already have slow. You don't really need the Stormbolt. You can trap them with slow, and they can speed scroll away, yeah, but still eventually they're going to lose some units to the slow. And then what the Beastmaster is really great at is you're able to scout him towering expansions and stuff like that with Invis Quillbeasts, with Invis Bears, Hawks even. So Beastmaster might even be better against hit and run. And we're going to see a little bit of that in the first replay as well. And then there's also one more, I would say, big advantage, which is something I love, which would be Invis Economic Harass, which means because you're already going for 2 Sanctums, so you have lots of Sorks, and you also have Invis early on, so you're able to cast Invisibility on the summons and constantly harass the economy of the Orc, because their base is open, their peons are there, you just constantly send summons into their base, right? Things like that. And you are also able to do that to expansions, you're also able to scout expansions and cancel them, so the Beastmaster is very, very good paired with the Sorks and the Archmage at harassing the Orc. Later on, even, throughout the entire game. Those of you that remember WCG 2009, are there any boomers with me in the chat here? WCG 2009, Fly against Infi, Game 2 on Turtle Rock. This was a different time, but Infi went for Archmage Beastmaster, and he won the game pretty much exclusively from Invis summon harassing Fly for the entire game. Now, if you want to go YouTube that, Fly against Infi, WCG, look that up. On Turtle Rock, you'll find the game. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But some people in the chat get what I mean. Now, so those are the advantages of Beastmaster. We'll quickly go over the disadvantages, and then we'll jump into a replay, because we don't want to dilly-dally too long. We're only versus Orc this episode? Yeah, this is about human versus Orc. Human versus Orc. So the disadvantages of Beastmaster would be, the big one is you're of course missing out on the Mountain King, so you have a lack of damage in the late game because you don't have the Clap, you don't have the Stormbolt. Things like that. So you kind of lack damage, and sometimes you have to compensate for this by retraining to Blizzard on your Archmage, because you need sort of that AoE damage, because the one big disadvantage of human, really, when they go for mass casters, or really when they stay tier 2 and don't go for rifles, is they don't have a lot of damage. That's just kind of human's weakness. They have a lot of sustain. They're able to kite really well and stay in the fights for a long time, but they don't have a lot of damage. And they normally make up for this by buying a lot of mana pots on a Mountain King and just clapping all the time. So with this Beastmaster, you kind of have to be able to do some damage early on to their economy, to their tech, get some units while the armies are small, because later in the big fights, it's going to be a lot trickier than it would be with a Mountain King. So that's a big disadvantage. And also, yeah, another thing tied to that would be they're pretty weak if you're on your initial harass, and we might see this in a replay today. It's pretty weak if you don't actually get much damage done with that 7 footman defend Beastmaster pressure at their tier 2. We'll talk more about this when we get into the replays, but it's, if you invest into sort of a timing where you're going to try to harass the Orc, and the Orc defends perfectly and loses nothing and you don't do any damage, you can imagine you're at kind of a disadvantage. Whereas if you were doing another sort of strategy where you're just going to be creeping a Mountain King up, it's much easier to get yourself at least into an even position. Whereas with this sort of a strategy, if you mess up the harass, you can be very much at a disadvantage, and you'll probably feel like the strat sucks. Because it requires you to get some tier 2 cancels, maybe even get a burrow kill, to cancel salves constantly, stuff like that. So it can be a little bit riskier than just playing Mountain King straight up, which is why I said at the beginning of the episode, I don't think this is going to be the 100% standard style for every game, human against orc, but it's a cool strat to be able to mix in every once in a while. But it's definitely risky. It's definitely risky, and it's definitely not going to work every time like maybe a Mountain King would, right? So that's also a big disadvantage of it. But it's still cool, and we're still going to talk about it. All right. So that's that. Pretty quick, 26-minute intro, whatever. It wasn't an hour and a half this time. We're going to watch 3 replays today. The first 2 I like quite a bit. I think the first 2 are very good. The third one's kind of weird, but I mean, might as well throw it in there. I try to normally get at least 3 replays showcasing the strategy, but the first 2 are really good. So, and they'll all be sock. And they'll be against relatively strong orcs. The first replay definitely will be. The first replay will be sock against focus on Tidehunters. You check out for Remo's Prison Cup. It's part of the 2-piece, Kaiser. Part of the 2-piece. Any replays have walkers? No, but there will be 3 different responses from the orc. None of them would be walkers. But there is 3 different responses. And because it's a new strategy, relatively new, let's say it's been around for maybe a month and a half, right? Because I did find a couple replays that are a bit older, maybe 2 months, but that's still pretty new in Warcraft times. There's going to be different approaches from the orcs, right? Because orcs are still trying to figure it out, and humans are still working out all the details, so we're going to see, there's not going to be a consistent answer from the orcs. It's going to be different for all of them. Right, so that's worth noting as well. All right, that's that. So I'm going to load into the first replay. I'm going to turn down the music a little bit because it's blasting my ears. Maybe it's all right for you guys, but it's loud for me. All right, that's good. All right, I think we're all good. Like I said, sock against focus on Tidehunters. Let's check out the strategy, guys. Ooh. What's your 1v1 MMR? Like 1900, something like that. I've only been playing random recently. So I don't know what my main race MMR would be, but it'd probably be around the same as my random, but I'm at 1900 right now. But I don't play too much. All right. Here's sock, and we'll pay close attention to the build order because it is a little bit different from what we've gotten used to, the 2-farm tech in the past. So we'll pay some attention to the build order. From the orcs today, it's worth noting we're just going to see Farseer headhunters from them every game. Just Farseer headhunters, because that's what standard from the orc is. Oh yeah, well I might be able to fix the booster color by doing. Yeah, let's do this then. We can watch it from his point of view. All right, so standard opener so far, right? Nothing too crazy.
Job's done.
Now this is a mistake I see a lot of humans. All right, this is. This isn't Sock making a mistake, this is Sock doing it right, but I see this mistake all the time, and I might be missing something. If you're a human player in the chat, and I'm wrong about this, please let me know, because maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I am. But sometimes, when you have this 20 lumber, when you have the 20 lumber that builds this tower, sometimes instead of building this tower, and this of course Sock is going to go for a 3-farm tech with tower, because again we're slowing down our tech, investing heavily in footmen, but instead of building this tower right now, I see human players instead build a 3rd farm. I see very good human players do this. Now, this doesn't make any sense to me because you can't actually use the 3rd farm. You don't even have enough supply to justify needing 30 max. Or rather, sorry, 24 max. No, 30 max. No, 24 max. You don't, yeah, 24. You don't even have enough units to justify having the supply to build the farm instead of building this tower. I see so many humans do this. I was watching a stream last night, and there was like a 2100 MMR human that built the 3rd farm instead of this tower. I don't get it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing something. Whatever happened to the seer grunts? Did they nerf headhunters? They have actually buffed headhunters quite a bit. They've buffed headhunters quite a bit. See, and let's keep an eye on his supply. When he goes to 24...
Job's done.
Now he's... Imagine if this was instead a third farm right now. He would never need it. He would never need it. Now he builds the farm, but the tower's earlier because he wants to get the tower before he techs anyway. Now the tower's earlier. So the farm would be finished about... You know, it's 50% done. The farm would probably be finished about now. Look at the supply. Look at the supply. He's not even... He would need to build another footman and another peasant or 2 more footmen to even need the third farm yet. Because he's 22 out of 24. Stop building the third farm before the tower, guys. Now, maybe there's a specific reason sometimes they do that, but I don't see it. I don't see it. This is the right way to do it, baby. Now, a couple other things worth noting. Footman scouts. Why is the footman scouting? Well, he needs to see what the build order is. We don't actually know. We know because we had Fog of War off. But we don't know if it's a fast tech. Is he going for grunts? Is he going for Farseer headhunters? Is he playing Blade Master? We need to scout the base, and pretty much as soon as we see this War Mill with our footmen, we know what build it is, then we generally know what the tech timing is for the orc, which is going to be very important. It's important to know what the build order is so we know when their tier 2 is going to be being produced. Well, you can build the third farm at once and skip the tower. Yes, you could skip the tower, but if you're going for 3 farms with a tower, I don't think there's any reason to build this farm before this tower. Right? As long as you're building all 3 of these, or all 4 of these, rather, before teching, right? But I digress. That was my TED Talk. So that's what this footman's going to do. The Archmage is just going to creep this. Worth noting also, you should kill the Sea Giant first, because I think, what is it? Is it Pulverize he has? I think it's Pulverize. You want to kill this bad boy, because he pulverizes your peasants. Or I don't know what that is. What is Anchor Swing? Is that what it's called? Anchor Swing? Who knows? I don't know.
Job's done.
So, Footman is going to now see the build order. He sees everything. Now, we put a mental note in our head that the Orc's tier 2 is going to be done at about the 4th dot of night. The 4th dot of night. That's an easy way to remember this timing. The 4th dot of night. We don't need to remember specifically what game time it is. We don't need to say it's going to be done at 4 minutes and 40 seconds. We don't need to, because we don't have a timer in game. When we're watching the replay, we have the timer up here, sure. But in game, we just go based off rough estimates via the timer at the top, and it will be the 4th dot of night is when the tier 2 will be finished for the orc. It's called Sweeping Beetle Attack. Yes. Now, Sock isn't going to take any sort of big risks. He's not going to try to creep like a big camp to get level 3, even though he wants to harass and attack burrows and stuff. He's not going to take huge militia risks and delay the tech that much just to get level 3. The only focus of Sock is to try to just scrounge together enough experience to get level 2. That's all he wants. He just wants to get the aura, just get level 2, and then he wants to stay very passive, and this is very important, guys. He's not going to invest Footman or Archmage health or even a lot of Archmage mana into fighting the Farseer at all. He's not going to fight the Farseer if he can avoid it at all. He's just going to continue to build Footmen when he can afford them. See, he's just going to run away from the Farseer, if possible. If he's backed into a corner, he will have to somehow split off his forces and get away from the Farseer, but he's not going to try to fight the Farseer. That's a mistake, again, that a lot of human players make. You don't need to fight the Farseer. See, he trades with the Farseer a little bit, but as soon as the Headhunters are here, he's just running away. Just runs away. Because he's never going to win this fight. He's never going to win it. This is the 5th Footman. So he's going to get... He gets Defend after Footman number 5. Right? He's also going to be waiting for the next farm, so this is a good time to do it. Still just running around. Not trying to fight the Farseer. After this, he's going to build a 6th Footman. this is a kind of just a cool trick to the timing. You can rally this footman that comes out after defend to the tavern, and the footman will get there by the time your tier 2's finished, so that 6th footman can pick up the Beastmaster at tier 2. Just a little clean it up a little bit, you know? Still just running around, not even trading with the wolves. Not even trading with the wolves. And look how much damage he's taking just by being chased by a headhunter. You imagine if he actually engaged into it. Yeah, 9 lumber peasants as well, yes. Which is 1 extra, but you have the time to, because you're going for the tower and 3 farms before attacking. So yeah, he went for 9 lumber peasants. That's a great question, for sure. Now he's just running around. Second dot of night is when we're going to see probably a 3rd burrow going up. There's the 3rd burrow. It's a little past the 2nd dot of night, but this is around the timing when we can think about going into the base to get a 2nd burrow cancel. Now, we can't do this if we're in front of the Farseer. Like, if the Farseer is still chasing our footmen around, we're not going to be able to just go into his base until our defend is finished. But the defend for Sok is about to be done. It is the 2nd dot of night, so he can go into the base and try to maybe look for this 2nd burrow. It might be being built right here or right here. He could find that cancel if he goes in. But he's a little bit out of position. He was being chased a little bit by the Farseer, so he wasn't able to find this timing, but this is something that he can look for. Right? Is around the 2nd dot of night looking for this 3rd burrow. It's a little earlier than your defend finishes, though. No, this footman's going to be able to go to the tavern. If we look at the tech, once this footman comes out and runs to the tavern, it'll be pretty close to when the Beastmaster's ready to come out. And now defend finishes, and Sok just goes into the base, and he's going to do some damage. See, he was looking for that burrow, but the burrow finishes, so he just attacks the one that's more forward. The reason why he was a tiny bit late is because he got chased around by the Farseer and wasn't able to juke him as much. And now we're going to see just how difficult defend is to deal with for the orc that has only headhunters currently. And this burrow's actually going to go down. Which, even if it didn't, the damage being done to the lumber and the gold and the delaying of the tech is still totally worthwhile. So now this is the 6th footman. Here's the 7th footman. The tier 2 is about to be done. This footman will be a tad bit late to pick up the Beastmaster, so this one's going to do it. And then when the tier 2 finishes, he's just going to go right back in. He's just going to go right back in. A lot of aggression.
Our forces are under attack.
Tier 2 done. Beastmaster picked up. 7 footmen are still here. Beastmaster's going to go Quill Beast, although we may see sometimes, we'll even see it in a replay today, the Beastmaster go for Bear. Bear is a lot better against the headhunters themselves, whereas the Quill Beasts are going to be a lot better against the tier 2 tech. And incredible, the human at this stage in the game is normally not stronger at all than the orc. Well, at least a little, you know, maybe not at this stage exactly, but in the early game, normally not stronger at all. Right now, there's no chance for Focus to really win a fight. He's lost 2 headhunters. He's lost a burrow. His tier 2's being cancelled. This is the strength of having a lot of defended footies and a lot of summons early on. Look how strong he is. He's got defended footies in the gold mine. He's managed to cancel both tier 2 buildings because of the Quill Beast. If he had Bear instead of Quills, he might not be able to get those tier 2 cancels, but you can choose between the 2 abilities based on the timing of their tier 2. The creeps right here ensnared that one headhunter. And this is pretty much... Now, Sok is getting a little bit more damage done, but if he was able to, like, he killed 2 headhunters as well, he might even kill a grunt, but, like, say he was able to just cancel the tier 2, that would probably be enough. But as we said, this is a risk. If he comes in here and gets nothing done, like, he doesn't kill this burrow, he doesn't get the tier 2 cancels, he doesn't kill 2 headhunters, he doesn't kill maybe this grunt, or even 3 headhunters he's going to kill, then this strategy is much worse, which is why it's a risk. But Sok got a lot of damage done on this timing, and a lot of damage doesn't need to necessarily include headhunter kills or the grunt kill, but I would say a lot of damage needs to at least be finding that tier 2 cancel and maybe finding some damage on the 3rd burrow. Right? So Sok did more than he needed to, but it's really, really good. Behind this, of course, he power built both Sanctums with 2 peasants each. 2 peasants each on these. And as soon as they're done, he's going to build 2 priests. And then he's going to build 2 sorks. So what did Focus do wrong here? Well, Focus tried to creep, which lost him a headhunter. He also went for Stomp, when I think the best way to deal with this pressure is actually to go Shockwave instead of Stomp, and to play Chainwave. So already that's kind of 2 mistakes. He was also a little bit late on the repair here. So he lost the burrow. Would he be able to stop the tier 2 cancels? Maybe with Shockwave. Maybe if he wasn't creeping this at the same time. So there were a few mistakes from Focus, underestimating the strategy. But it's either play super defensive, or maybe take a risk and take some damage as the Orc in this position. So maybe a couple of mistakes led to this, but... And now the damage has been done. We don't need to overcommit. We're just going to back away. We'll keep an eye on the macro, because I get a lot of questions sometimes about, like, how many casters do I actually build? In fact, I was talking about this last week. How many casters do I build, right? And when do I build them? Well, let's keep an eye on what Sokka's doing here. He builds 2 priests right away, because the priests are going to be really good at helping him creep. It's also going to heal up this Archmage and this Beastmaster, the couple of low footmen. Having priests immediately is really good. After this, he's going to build his 3rd priest. That's going to be the most he probably builds. Maybe he'll build 4. And then he's going to go into Sorks and try to get about an even number of Sorks with priests. So he's going to build 3 priests. Then he'll probably try to get 3 Sorks. And we'll keep keeping an eye on that. We'll continue keeping an eye on that. How about that for English? And one thing Sokka is going to do really well, too, is he's going to always have a Quill Beast on top of Focus. Just like he's doing right now, he's going to always have a Quill Beast. What is this really good for? Well, 1, it just scouts the Orc so you don't get caught out of position. But 2, it cancels salves. It can stay out of range. It can aggro creep camps. Like right now, like, Focus cannot salve this grunt. He might even lose it, in fact. And Sokka's going to be doing this constantly with Quill Beast throughout the entire game. Note 3 Sorks will now be out, so he went Priest, 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 Sork, Sork, Sork. And then after these 2 Sorks, he'll have 3 Priests, 3 Sorks. He'll get Adept on both casters. Is that right? No, sorry, he'll get Control Magic and Priest Adept. I'm pretty sure. We'll double check.
Forces are under attack.
He's just going to creep. The damage has been done. Sok doesn't need to go into the base. He doesn't need a tower rush. He doesn't need to all in here. He's done the damage that he was supposed to do with the strategy, and now it's time for the follow-up plan, which we'll talk about. Continue to keep an eye on this. So there's Priest Adapt, and the first Breaker actually coming out. But Priest Adapt is going to be very important because it's just going to give you more mana for more healing. It also gives you the ability to get rid of the wolves if they're harassing you. It just makes the priests a lot stronger, which is nice. Whereas the Sorks, all they need is a couple of slows and you're happy. Note the Quill Beasts continue to be annoying. He's not supposed to do anything with it, but look how annoying he is. And the reason why Sok's able to do this is because there's not really a big loss. He doesn't need it to creep so much. He's got the water elementals, and he's got the ability to multitask this well, because Sok is a really good player. So why not do this? And it's super strong. He's just standing on the perimeter and being super annoying. Continue to keep an eye on the macro. So here's what he's done so far. He's gotten 3 priests and 3 Sorks. Then he got Adept for the priests and Control Magic, right? And then after this, he's going to get even a 4th Sork and Sork Adept. So he's going to have 1 Breaker, 4 Sorks, 3 priests, and Adept on everything, right? Or, you know, the first upgrade for everything. And he's going really Sork heavy. Generally, you wouldn't go this many. But again, we're trying to overload the Shaman mana with summons, you know, bears, quills, and water elementals, and lots of slows. We're just overloading them. And the Control Magic is going to be good, again, to overload the Shaman mana, because we're going to be able to steal the wolves away from the Farseer. Once the Orc has Shamans, you still want to always send the Quill Beast? I mean, that's a good question, Climb More, but and I'm not sure what the right answer is, but in this game, Sock does continue to send the Quillbeast. And what you can do is he's going to have Sork Adept soon for Invis. Once you have this finished, so this is going to finish around the time when Focus has a lot of Shamans out. Right now he's got 1 with not a lot of mana. He's about to have 2, because of course his Shamans were delayed by the tier 2 cancel. So he's about to have 2 or 3 Shamans, which is then going to mean he has enough Shaman mana at all time to get rid of the Quillbeast. But by the time he has that, the Adept is going to be finished, and then Sock can just Invis the Quill. And only break out of Invis when he can get a last hit, or when he can cancel salves, when he can cancel maybe a burrow. He's only going to break out of Invis with that, and then he can also start to harass the economy with the Quillbeasts and the bears, instead of actually harassing the army. That's a good question, though. But yeah, the timing sort of works out on the Invis that allows Sock to avoid that just feeding experience. Hey, Trident Maple, with the 10 euros 13 minutes ago. Sorry I missed that, brother. Appreciate you. Hopefully you're still here, but thank you. Thank you, thank you. Alright, let's continue. I'm just going to create Beastmaster level 3, and then this is where the strategy, the next stage of the strategy, sort of starts. After he gets level 3 Beastmaster, he's got all of his Adept training finished. Notice he continues to send summons. This isn't a Quillbeast, but he's still sending them. Ah, you're still here. Good. Thank you, thank you. Level 2 Quillbeast. Level 2 Bear would be totally fine as well, right? Like, he's just going Quillbeast because he's gotten a lot of value with them, but you could go Bears as well if you wanted. Okay, so he gets level 3-3. His harass has been very successful on the main base and the army. He's got Adept on his Sorks soon and his Priests. He's got about 4 Sorks. He's getting a 4th Priest as well now. So he's going to have 4, 4, and 1. 4 Sorks, 4 Priests, 1 Breaker, and a couple of Footmen left over. And now he's going to expand. Why is he expanding? Because back in the day, you used to do this sort of harass with a Beastmaster. And then what would you follow it up with? Well, you'd follow it up with a Tower Rush. Sick boy, how you doing? Good. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. You used to follow it up with a Tower Rush. Nowadays, you can't Tower Rush. Like, they have reinforced defenses. They have Shamans against the summons, which they could just get rid of the summons. They don't have to worry so much about slow if they're behind their burrows. They have a Farseer instead of a Blade Master in the past. Tower Rushes like this just don't really work against Orc any longer at the Tier 2 stage, especially because of the reinforced burrows. So you don't have that option as a follow-up anymore. So although the early game is relatively similar to what it used to be, now we need a different mid-game follow-up. So we gain an advantage off of the harass. And then what do? We just expand. We just expand. Makes sense. If we get into a creeping war and we both stay one base, the Orc just has stronger heroes than us. Farseer Tauren Chieftain is a better hero combination than Archmage Beastmaster. So we can't just one base and just both creep. That's not a way to get an advantage. It may be for the Orc in some situations, but not for the human. It may be for undead in some situations, but not for other races. So an expansion is the only logical way to sort of push the advantage that we've gained from the Beastmaster early on Tier 2. That's why we're going to see an expansion. Around the, right now it's 44 supply, and Sock's just got his 4th Priest, right?
Job's done.
He got a couple of Ivory Towers from his shop as well. This will turn into, I think, double Arcane, probably the best option. A Guard Tower is not going to be too helpful. And note the Quillbeasts, the Bears, continue to go towards the main base or finding the army to cancel salves. Continue to be super annoying. Look, he's constantly, as soon as he summons these Quillbeasts, he runs them across the map immediately. Immediately. And this is what happens when you don't have Invis and you send them in. That's what somebody was pointing out earlier, right? Once they have those enough Shamans. But see, like, look, he doesn't even have that much mana on his Shamans anymore. Look at the mana. And is he building a 4th Shaman? No, he's getting Adept. He doesn't have that much mana. If they get in a fight right now, look at all the things he's got to get rid of. Can he get rid of these Water Elementals? No. Can he get rid of the next summons on the Beastmaster? No. Can he get rid of all these slows that he has? How many slows does he have? The 6, 12, 13... 19 slows. something like that. Like, can you get rid of all those? No, you could speed scroll away, but he's never going to have enough shaman mana. And that's one thing on top, that although you're feeding experience with these constant summons that you send across, you're setting him up so that in the future he's not going to have enough shaman mana in the actual fight. And he's definitely not going to have enough shaman mana if he wants to try to break this expansion that's going up right now. Right, so it's another interesting layer with this Quillbeast harass.
Forces are under attack.
Now Sokka's going to come fight, and he's fighting with a purpose right now. He's fighting with the purpose to secure his expansion, and because he knows the shaman mana is pretty low, so he could probably win this fight. But if he wasn't expanding right now, he might not have a reason to fight right now. Because he could instead just be trying to bully focus off creep camps and stuff like that, whereas, you know, there's not a lot to bully him off of at this side of the map right now. And this is going to be where we remember that we're actually playing against a human being, and Focus is a very good player of this game, so although we probably should be winning this fight, Focus is really good. But still, that's why it's so good to fight with purpose, because even though maybe we'll lose the fights, we have a reason why we're taking the fight. The expansion is safe, so maybe we don't trade perfectly, but our expansion is safe. It's not as though Sokka isn't killing anything. Why skipping on Headhunter considering how good they are against killing casters? Well, eventually you kind of need to transition out of Headhunters because you need a good way to deal with the breakers. Generally, is why you transition out of them. So you go into Grunts instead. And also, if you just continue to build Headhunters, it's kind of, you're just going to lose to defended footies as well, in a way. So I think in the long run, Orc kind of needs to transition out of Headhunters. They're good in the early game before there's defend, and they're also very good at creeping, but they're not actually the best fighting units against human overall when they get kited and there's defend footies and they're very low hit points, stuff like that. But, I mean, maybe there's room for the Orc to build more Headhunters here instead. Notice how the Kodo ate the Water Elementals. Very, very cool point. Yeah, for sure. Ate the Water Elementals. Okay, it's gone now, but he had 2 Kodos, and he was forced into eating the Water Elementals because he had no Shaman mana, right? And that's the whole point of the strategy working out. Like, he's got some purges now. That's the Adept working, right? That's the Adept helping him out. The Adept kicked in during that fight. But he had to eat the Water Elementals because the Shamans, again, were overloaded. And the Quillbeast now, finding value. This Quillbeast was invised, and he's going to be able to cancel the towers. This is what somebody was asking about hit and run earlier. Here's your Quillbeast, baby. Invised across, was not able to be purged. You're going to need to eventually go into a Witch Doctor out of here. That would be a good way for the Orc to deal with this. The Invis summon harass, get a Witch Doctor, leave a Shaman at home, something like that. But for now, there's no way Focus is going to be able to expand when there's Quillbeast going across the map. Invis Water Elemental going across the map. We'll probably see a Bear summon soon and sent across. And if he tries to hit the expansion, there's double Arcane here. And TPing into double Arcane means it's going to be very difficult for Focus to win a fight, because if you don't have Stomps, TC mana, of course if you don't have Shaman mana from these Arcanes, very difficult, very difficult. So this is a great position for Sok to be in. He can continue to cancel the expansion with Invis summons. He can continue to harass the economy with Invis summons, like he's going to with this Water Elemental. And behind this, he can always safely fight at his expansion because he has double Arcane. Sick boy, sick boy. And behind this, he's just going into breakers. We'll just make sure to keep an eye on what the army is. 1, 2, 3, 4 Sorks. 1, 2, 3, 4 priests. And just breakers after that. He's replacing the footmen that he lost now with breakers. And he's just going to continue to build breakers. He may eventually get a 5th Sork and a 5th priest. But for now, he's breaking upkeep. And he's just going into breakers. Right? So there's your macro side of things.
Our forces are under attack.
And now this begins, and this probably won't end for the entire game.
Our town is
it doesn't seem to do
siege.
much right now, but oh, it will. Oh, it will. Level 4 Beastmaster, that means level 2 Bear, and also level 2 Aura. The level ups are very valuable. It would be more valuable in a Mountain King, but it's still very good. And just, let's see, as he continue to build breakers, continue to build breakers. And this is a situation where maybe Sok could consider retraining to Blizzard, because again, we are missing some of the damage from the Mountain King. The summons are very good at things like this, and they're very good at canceling towers and stuff like that, and tier 2 cancel, but they're not as much damage as level 2 clap. So you do kind of need to compensate, so retraining to Blizzard might not be a bad call for Sok once the armies get above 50 supply. But currently it's only above 50 supply for one of these two players. And the bear. Look at the bear. Look at this. Look how sick this is. Look how sick this is. I love this. It's so fun to play, too. It's so sick. He can just do this all day. And he's got an expansion behind this. And you know what? Once Focus gets his expo up, Sok can just do it. He's got enough summons to do it to both bases. Okay, now we're going to see the retrain. Because although this looks really fancy, if they were to get in a direct fight right now, Sok would really be lacking the damage that he needs. Because, you know, he's got breakers, not rifles. He's got a Beastmaster, not Mountain King. He's got water elementals, not Blizzard, right? So he needs the damage from the Blizzard. Continue to just build breakers, by the way. He's still got 4 Sorks and 4 Priests with Adapt and Control Magic. Nothing too crazy, right? Just all breakers. And again, Focus is very good, so his micro is going to be pretty nice here. But eventually, Sok is going to trade pretty favorably. And just being used defensively. There is a town portal on the TC. You see all these grunts. One of them was speed scrolled, but the other 2 grunts were definitely dead because they were slowed. And behind this, Sok still just building breakers, right? Just building breakers.
Our town is under siege.
And he could town portal back here and defend because 2 arcane towers is more than enough static defense to defend against this sort of an army. So if he wanted to, he could come back and defend. Even if he didn't have those arcanes, of course he could defend, but you always want to have an advantage if you're town portaling in. Shouldn't the breakers have tried to attack the TC from a mana burn? Probably. They maybe could have, but it's always hard to say like what the perfect thing to do in the fight would be. There's some general guidelines, like, yes, attacking the TC with the breakers is good, but Sok was probably more worried about positioning of his Archmage there, because his Archmage was a little bit vulnerable, and most of the damage was coming from the Archmage, too. So he was probably more worried about that than actually the breakers getting damage on the right targets. But yeah, as a general rule, that would be good, which is normally why they're good paired with the Mountain King, because you can Stormbolt and then focus the TC while he's stunned for those 5 seconds, but... And you might be saying, why is Focus still in the game? Well, he has an expansion. Which could have been cancelled maybe by summons if the multitasking was, like, incredible by Sok, but I think he's done enough this game. And continue to harass. And really, if you're not doing things like this, you're not going to get as big of an advantage as you might be able to. So this is actually, it seems like just a cutesy play that Sok is doing this over and over again. He did it in the main base. But no, this is actually a pretty big part of the strategy to do this consistently. continue to send invis, and you know he can cancel a re-established main base if he needs to. He did get a 5th Sork in the meantime. Maybe it was a macro mishap, but of course he's getting to the point where he has enough breakers, like 3, 6. He's got 10 breakers, so I think, you know, he's getting pretty happy with the number of breakers that he has. Even going to go tier 3. This is just more of a luxury thing. Where he can get some Knights out, Frag Sharp Mortar Teams, a Paladin 3rd, Inner Fire. So why not go tier 3? He's very, very far ahead. This isn't a huge part of the strategy, but I guess when in Rome is what they say, right? And, like, Sok is behind on levels, right? He's behind on levels because he's been feeding so many summons, but he's got the much stronger army. He's not going to be behind on levels for long. Now he actually finds 5-5. And, like, Sok is... If you've noticed, Sok has lost a lot at the start of each of these fights, but he's always come out ahead at the end of the fight. At the end of the fight, he's always traded favorably. Like, look what Sok has ended up with, and look what Focus has ended up with. He ate a couple of breakers, but, like, his army is much more slow, or much, you know, more damaged and slowed, and smaller, right? So, at times it might think like, oh, the TC lands a Stomp, he gets a couple casters, Chain Lightning is really good, I need to use both heal scrolls right off the bat, but eventually, over time, Sok is always going to come out ahead in these fights, assuming that, you know, the supply is there for him. More summons going straight to the main base to cancel clarities. He'll probably kill this Kodo even. Let's see if he does. Might not be able to. Is there enough Shaman mana? There's a decent amount.
Forces are under attack. Our gold mine is running low.
The Blizzard is really good.
Our forces are under
It's so
attack.
good. And do we get to see any tier 3? We see he's probably going to go into Frag Sharp Mortar Teams
Upgrade
to round off his 80 supply when he goes tier 3. Get some attack upgrades, get a Paladin probably as well. Wouldn't be a bad call. What if he got like a Fire Lord third, though? See, like, the fights start off very rough. Look how bad it looks. But eventually, like, a lot of stuff is going to go down for Focus. And this is, again, just because Focus is a really good player. He's got very good micro. Yeah, for sure. What are the upgrades like? Well, for Sok, they are 1-0. His Blacksmith just recently started. We'll see another game where he actually gets 1-1 quite early. And then for Focus, they were 0-0. But he had Adept on the Priests, Adept on the Sorks, and Control Magic. Those are the upgrades. So that's replay number 1. How's that? That's pretty cool, right? That's a pretty cool strat. All right, so what are the sort of general steps there? And, you know, the early game is really where it matters. It's a lot of the strat comes down to the first 5 or 6 minutes. It's very important. And it didn't seem like Sok did a lot in those first 5 or 6 minutes, but what he did was very, very difficult. Let's talk about what he did. So, he initially crept one big camp. He crept one orange. He crept the standard orange creep. So he crept the standard orange creep, and then he was like level 1.8, something like that, right? Let's say 1.7. So he was pretty close to level 2, and of course you want to get level 2 for the aura for your tier 2 harass, because it's just really good to have aura, or else you don't have many water elementals, stuff like that, right? So he got level 1.7, and then he just tried to find a very small camp that wasn't a big commitment to get level 2 off of. All he wants to do is try to secure level 2. So he secures level 2, and he does so without taking any big risks. He doesn't invest a ton of footman health, right? He's not calling a whole bunch of militia. He's not taking a risky camp. He's not worried about getting level 3. He's not worried about getting any nice items. He just wants to secure that aura on that level 2. That's his big first goal. And then after that, he just avoids the Farseer and the Headhunters. He just avoids it. You see so often people engaging into the Headhunters, right? He engages into the Headhunters. Or they would engage into the Headhunters, and they would just take a lot of damage. Imagine if Sock, here's a for instance, he has 5 footmen but no defend yet. He engages into the 5 Headhunters. He loses 3 footmen and kills 3 Headhunters, and then still goes Beastmaster to follow it up. He's not going to get any damage done. Yes, he traded 1 for 1 and killed some Headhunters, but at the end of the day, he's got no follow-up pressure, because he lost, even if he didn't lose footmen themselves, if he lost the health on the footmen, you can't do any pressure. If all your footmen are half health, even if you're microing them beautifully and you manage to save all of them, you need to power build a shop now and heal them up before pressuring, and you're on sort of a tight timing. So it's important that Sock did not overcommit to trading with the Farseer or the Headhunters early on. He had very high hit points on all of his units. That's an important point. And then he got 5 footies, and then got defend. Then once defend finished, it finished around the 2nd dot of night. Then when the defend finished around the 2nd dot of night, he went and harassed. Just lightly, right? He was just looking for like a 3rd burrow cancel. In this case, he actually found a burrow kill. But even just finding, you know, a cancel or a little bit of damage, maybe you kill a peon, maybe you force him to repair a little bit, this is all good. But again, he's not overcommitting to dealing damage here. He's just poking in a little bit, looking for a quick 3rd burrow cancel, and then getting out and waiting for his 7 footmen and his Beastmaster at tier 2. So that's the first hit, and then at the 4th dot, of night, that's when the real pressure begins. Then he picks up a Beastmaster, and he has 7 defend footmen, and he goes in for like the tier 2 cancel. And he's, most times, if he hits the timing cleanly, which is pretty easy to do because you're not trying to creep level 3 before hitting the timing, right? If you're trying to creep level 3 and you're getting harassed, it could be tricky to hit the timing because you're under a lot of pressure. But because you're not committing to big creep camps or anything, you're able to hit the timing almost always. So he picks up his Beastmaster, he goes into the base, he cancels the Spirit Lodge, the Bestiary, he kills 2 Headhunters. And, you know, he went Quill Beast in this game, but he might go Bear. If he thinks he can kill more Headhunters, maybe he goes Bear. If he thinks he can more easily cancel the tier 2, he might go Quill Beast. But this is really where it comes down to, will this strategy work or not? Is this stage. If all these steps go your way, you're going to be at a big advantage going into the game. But if none of these go your way, probably better just to go Mountain King instead of Beastmaster. Because notice, you have all these steps, and then at the end, you pick up the Beastmaster. So if nothing along the way goes well for you, maybe just go Mountain King and just try to play a more standard game. Could it ever make sense to sacrifice the TP for the 2nd dot of night harass? If you need to, sure, but I don't think the point of the 2nd dot of night harass that we're seeing from Sock this game is to invest a lot of footman health. He's just going in, he's trying to juke the Farseer and the Headhunters so that they don't know he's coming in, and then come in from a weird angle and do a little bit of damage, just as sort of like a preface to the actual Beastmaster timing. Right, so I don't think he wants to commit too much. Committing the TP with the Beastmaster at the 4th dot, I think, is reasonable, but I think he's trying to avoid committing too many footman lives and committing the TP, committing too much mana, too much health into the 2nd dot, because really the big juice is to cancel those tier 2 buildings. That's the big juice. But, I mean, we might see some different approaches in the next replays. That's just, based off what we saw in replay 1, I think that's generally the idea. So that's, like I said, the majority of the game is going to be based off these steps. And then, so let's think of those as like in their own bubble, and then past that initial harass, that's when the actual macro starts, because the whole game up to that point has just been footmen. Archmage, Beastmaster, 7 footmen. Sometimes 6, but in most replays that I've seen, it's been 7 footmen. And then the Sanctums get up. And so what do we get? We get 4 priests, 4 Sorks, And what else do we get? We get 1 breaker. And then we get adept, control, magic. So that's pretty much what our army looks like initially. And we try to creep level 3-3. And then once we're around level 3-3 and we have this sort of 4-4-1 army, is around when we're pretty strong, right? So we have the control of the map to be able to get an expo up. And this is going to happen around, 40 to 45 supply. There's not a clear-cut timing, but it's when you're strong enough to be able to actually hold the expansion. You don't want to just get pushed and die, right? And the expansion is, of course, good, like we pointed out in the replay, because how else are you going to be able to get an advantage? You're not going to be able to end the game. If you just go one-to-one creep camps and you're both on one base, the Orc is just going to be stronger than you. So this is how we're able to get an advantage with the Beastmaster second when we're lacking the Mountain King. Right, so we're going to expand. And then we're just going to invis, summon, harass. And we're going to macro breakers after 4-4 casters. You're going to invis, summon, harass the main base. You're going to stop them from counter expanding. You're going to creep the map. And you're just going to break upkeep into breakers, assuming you have 4 priests and 4 sorks. That's what we saw from Sock. He eventually got 5 sorks. So you can definitely, there's some room to, it's not like this is so clear cut, right? You can, maybe you get a 5th priest sometimes. Sure. But this is just generally what we're seeing. And that's it. So there's 2 steps. There's the very important early game, and then there's the follow-up, which maybe has some wiggle room in the follow-up. Right? Do you take more fights aggressively with your summons? Do you harass more and play very passive with your summons? How much do you tower up? Do you play ultra mega lame and just consistently send invis units the entire game and have like 5 towers at home? There's probably some wiggle room. But where there's not wiggle room, I would say, is the early game being very precise. So that's that. Let's watch another replay of this. So the next replay will be Sock vs. Linguagua. And it will be on Autumn Leaves. This was played, I think, yesterday. Whereas the Sock vs. Focus game was played, I think, over a month ago. So this will be a more clear representation of how Sock thinks about the strategy. And then after this, we got one kind of weird replay, which I might as well just throw in. Okay. Gonna load it up. And worth noting as well, I've seen this on most maps, this strategy. I don't know if there's a bad map for it. Maybe Amazonia. Maybe. I think it would still be fine on Amazonia, but it might be hard to secure that expansion on Amazonia and to play like sort of the long game. Hey, Dazzle. So maybe not Amazonia, but other than that, I think every other map would be good for it, and maybe it's just good on every map as well. Who knows? Who knows? Have yet to find out, but I've seen it on Tidehunters, Autumn Leaves, Echo Isles, Last Refuge, and Concealed Hill so far. I believe I've seen it on those maps. I don't know if I've seen it on Northern Isles actually, but there maybe is a reason for that. But I think it would still work on Northern Isles. This is green tea, Dazzle. This is green tea. All right, here we go. Here's replay 2. Sock against Linguagua. And we'll keep an eye again on the opening build order, but I would expect it to be pretty similar. This is a replay that I haven't gone over too much. The other replays I take notes for, and but this replay, I woke up this morning, checked War 3 info, and then I was like, oh, there's another good replay. So I don't know the details of this. Maybe some of the things he does in this game will be different from what he did last, but let's see. Let's see what's changed. Let's see if anything has changed. And if anything does change, it's probably because Sock has put a lot more time into the strategy since the last game, which was from, June. All right.
Job
So an
done.
Archmage. We'll just take a look at Linguagua's base as well. Farseer Headhunters. Like I said, this will be the strategy from every orc we watch today. Nothing new there.
Job's done.
Should see a tower coming up. There it is. He won't build the third farm with this 20 lumber because it would be useless. He will, however, build it with this lumber pretty soon. Maybe he builds it with this peasant. Either way, he'll build it pretty soon. This footman will go scout. We need to know what build order our opponent is doing because we're trying to cancel their tier 2. We need to know what their tech timing is.
Job's done.
Feel like killing the burrow on the push with the Beastmaster instrumental for the success. I think it can be very important and very impactful for sure. But I think you might be able to just squeeze out only getting a tier 2 cancel. I think if you get no tier 2 building cancels and you don't get the burrow, you're probably at a loss for sure. Okay, there's the third farm. And again, just creeping. He's just going to try to eke out level 2 if possible. Footman sees the build. Deny that water elemental. Pretty nice.
Done.
And let's see how Sock ekes out level 2. Because last game, he didn't actually get harassed right away, whereas this game, he's getting harassed. So is he going to be able to find... He could always call Militia after he techs and go for this. Let's see what he actually does. There's plenty of green camps on Autumn Leaves, though, so I don't think it's any problem for him to actually get level 2. Note, he's not fighting with the Farseer. There's only a Farseer here, but he's still just running away from everything. He splits off the Footman and the Archmage so that he's almost giving Linguagua an ultimatum of what to chase. And he's just going to run away as well as he can. Keep an eye on the barracks as well. Okay, he's going to call Militia to get that level 2 off of the green camp.
Are under attack.
In the meantime, he's just going to run away. So it is pretty much the same as last game, only he has to invest more to get to level 2. It's not as easy as it was in the last game. Let's see. I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't create this whole camp, if he just crept 2. Didn't even finish the camp. Maybe he will, though. He's just running away. 5th Footman, defend, just like last game. He gets level 2. He doesn't need to go into the base yet because look at the timing. First dot, most likely. Let's double check because maybe I'm wrong. I doubt we're going to see a third burrow going up yet. Okay, we do. So there's... Okay, so the second dot just hit. So right now is maybe where Sock could go into the base and look for it. Because the second dot of night just hit right now. So, you know, maybe you need to be a little bit more precise with that timing. Which is maybe why also Linguagua's sitting next to his base and being a bit more defensive to not allow this to happen. But we could also look for is the shop timing, because with Farseer Headhunters, you don't build your shop until you're close to tier 2. So there's a couple things Sock could be looking for. But like I said in the last replay as well, we don't want to force the issue if the Farseer is actually defending his base, because this isn't like the meat and potatoes harass, right? This is just a little subsequent harass. You're still waiting for the Beastmaster. You don't want to commit all your HP and mana and stuff when Linguagua is just chilling here and you don't have defend yet. So maybe that's why we don't see Sock committing as heavily for this third burrow, or maybe he just missed the timing.
Our forces are under attack.
You think the burrow should be further back? I think that'd be a great choice for Linguagua. Yeah, put it back here or something. That's what Focus did last replay, right? He put it in the back, not in the front. See, still just running away. He's actually trying his best to just not fight the Farseer. This is what he's done the last 2 replays. Linguagua finds a Footman because he's really, really good, but he's trying his best to not fight the Farseer, which seems obvious looking at it, but this is not what most human players do. Gets the burrow in the shop. Perfect. Loses 1 Footman. That's exactly what Sock wanted to do. That's it. Now he can chill and wait for the Beastmaster. He's getting the shop up. He's getting his 4th farm. He's about to get his 6th Footman, because remember he lost 1, and he'll get the 7th Footman after that. I think no, his Footmen are all on time. But see, the damage is done. Linguagua even gets spikes, which I think is a really cool adjustment from him, but that's all Sock was hoping to do. That shop, that burrow, you're good. Now he's chilling and waiting for the Beastmaster. Oh, the greedy boy. He might go back in for another burrow. Yeah, the spike. I like the spike barricades quite a bit. See, this is also remember, this replay is much more recent than the last replay we watched. The focus replay on Tidehunters was from about a month ago. This replay is from yesterday, so Linguagua is very well aware of what this strategy is. It isn't a new strat to him. He knows exactly what it is, so Linguagua does a couple of new things that are really cool to try to counter it. Spikes is the first one, and there's another one we'll see if you notice. Again, defending that burrow. This is the 6th footman waiting for the Beastmaster, just like last game. And then we're going to have 2 Sanctums eventually, just like last game, power built with 2 peasants each.
Job done. Upgrade complete.
There's the Beastmaster. And different, no Quill Beast this time, just the Bear. The Bear is better against the Headhunters themselves. The Quill Beast is better against the Tier 2. I think this is even an earlier grunt from Linguagua. Let's see. He's only got 4. He should have 6 Headhunters if he's playing all standard. But yeah, this is another adjustment for Linguagua. So he's made 3 already. The third is going to be the TC is going to go for Shockwave. One of them is that he gets spikes. And the third one is that instead of getting a 5th and 6th Headhunter, he instead gets a grunt. So already 3 adjustments being made by the Orc, but still a viable strategy apparently. Because it's going to work for Sock. But it's cool to see these adjustments being made that weren't made by Focus. And Sock actually not going for the Tier 2. He's instead... Okay, he's going for both. He's going for both. He's going for the Headhunters and the Tier 2. What a madman. So he gets 1 Headhunter. Note, he's back at home. He's going to build both Sanctums. He gets the Spirit Lodge. He gets 2 Headhunters. He's going to lose the Beastmaster, but he's happy to do so, I think. Because the damage is done. 3 Headhunters. 4 Headhunters. Shockwave makes this a lot easier to deal with. But not that easy. And Sock pretty much wins the game right there. He lost his Beastmaster. He also has lost 5 Footmen, but he killed 4 Headhunters, got a Burrow and a Shop cancel, Bestiary Spirit Lodge cancel, and killed the Farseer. What unit should the Grunt focus? That's a good question. Probably the Footman. Probably the Footman. Or one of the heroes. Maybe on the Archmage could be good, as well as the Wolves. Because normal damage is good against heroes, or at least it doesn't get reduced by hero damage, right? Or hero armor, I should say. But, you know, you kind of have to deal with the Footman. Alright, so these were both power built. This one was, we caught it being slow built earlier, but eventually he would power build them both with 2 peasants. Same thing again. Nothing's changed macro-wise. 2 priests. Here's the 3rd priest. Sork. After this Sork, we'll build 2 more Sorks. Right? So again, here's an example of pretty much the strategy going perfectly. He lost some units because Linguagua defended decently, but he for sure killed more than he lost. And now he's just going to creep. Now he's just creeping. The damage has been done. He just needs to get the follow-up and get the expansion. And get level 3/3 and get all the casters he needs. Keep an eye on the macro. Ooh. This is different. Did he mess up? He's getting a 4th priest. Is that a mistake? Or is a 4th priest good? Maybe there's something I'm missing. But he's not going for... I mean, of course, eventually he wants 4 of each, but he's just getting the 4th priest earlier. For a reason that I wouldn't be able to tell you why, but still, getting the 4th priest early.
Our forces are under attack.
1.26 meta, except Expoing instead. Yeah, and you don't get level 3 on the Archmage super early.
Job done.
And you're not against the Blade Master, and you're not against Raider Walker.
Our forces are under attack.
And you get a bear instead of a hawk. Okay, now he's getting the swords. So he just got the 4th priest early. Or wait, got the 3rd priest early? Whatever. Who cares? Generally, we know what we're doing. Canceling some salves. Beastmaster almost level 3. And now the expansion comes up. A little bit earlier than last time, right? But we've done a lot more damage than we did last time, so we can kind of get away with the expansion earlier, whereas, you know, just expand when you're feeling safe enough to do so. This Quillbeast gets eaten by the Kodo, and he gets level 3 Beastmaster, but still, he's still waiting for 3-3 before expanding, right? Vaguely reminiscent there. Now we agree. Let's take a look at the macro. So 1, 2, 3, 4 Priest, 1, 2, 3, 4 Sorks. Is Adept and Control Magic on the way? Not quite yet. Because Sock sucks, apparently. He mismacroed. But his expansion's at least coming up. And this time he didn't get the double Arcane. Sock is doing a lot of corner cutting, I think just because he's very comfortable in this game. But we should see the Adept and the maybe Control Magic on the way soon. Let's see. Berserker picked up, because it's a good position to buy the Berserker for sure. Where's that Adept at? I think he's just messed up.
Job's done.
What's the Shaman mana like? Well, as we say. Okay, he's got one more Purge. There he uses it. There's a whole lot more summons where that came from. Well, not actually. There's not a lot of mana left, but... Okay, is Adept coming? Okay, there's Priest Adept coming. And remember, fighting with purpose, there's an expansion behind this. That was the same timing Sock took a big fight in the last game. His expansion was up. He took a big fight defending the expansion. Also delaying the possibility of a counter expansion, and what do you know? He actually wins the fight because he's very far ahead, and there's absolutely no way Linguagua can win at this point. There's just no way. He can't even win a fight in his own base right now. There's an expansion behind him.
Upgrade complete.
Okay, then the first breaker, just like before, first breaker comes out. So a couple of things are pretty slow for Sock because he was fighting quicker, but still, he gets Priest Adept and the first breaker, then he'll get Control Magic and Adept for the Sword, and then he'll break upkeep into breakers later on.
Research complete.
And he's just owning him.
Our forces are under attack. Research complete.
There's the more headhunters, somebody was saying earlier. So maybe Linguagua thinks it'd be a good idea when it's so caster heavy to get more headhunters. 3 GC. Not the best shockwave, but followed up. And let's check the macro again. Control Magic. Like I said, he's very ahead, so he's going tier 3. Again, I stress this is not an important part of the strategy to go tier 3. But he is so far ahead that he is willing to do so early.
Our forces are under attack.
Sock has a tendency to go tier 3 against Orc when he's very far ahead. He just always does it. And he almost never actually reaches tier 3, but he starts going there. That's a consistent thing I've noticed. And look, the Quillbeast the entire time is just being so annoying. He's always got a Quillbeast behind the army, whether he be fighting or not. And is he building just breakers? Yep, just breaking upkeep with breakers.
Our forces are under attack.
Still has 4 priests and 4 Sorks. Here's the 4th Sork. So not a lot has changed on the side of Sock. A lot has changed on the side of the Orcs, but it didn't work, did it? Was there anything really different about Sock's play this game? I think he hit a cleaner second dot of night timing, and I also think Bear instead of Quillbeast was a slight adjustment, but was there anything different from this replay as opposed to that replay? I want to actually find when that first replay was from. It might take me a second to find it, but I'm interested now. No Blizzard? Yeah, I don't think he needed the Blizzard, though. He may have, if the game went longer, gotten it. But Let me find this replay. Give me a sec. Because let's figure out how much time there was in between those two. So that was Soccer's focus on Tidehunters. Oh, maybe it wasn't from that long ago. Oh. Oh, you know what? It wasn't actually from that long ago. It was from exactly... It was 1 week ago. It was from 1 week ago. Or, wait, not 1 week ago. It would have been from 11 days ago. 11 days ago was from the first replay. So look at all the adjustments Linguagua was made in 11 days. From that Tidehunters game, although that was focused, of course, to the Autumn Leaves game. Pretty cool. I thought it was a little bit later than that, but apparently the strat's even newer than I gave it credit for. That's ages? Yeah, 11 days, yeah. It's pretty cool. It's a good third choice. I think... I mean, I would personally go for a Paladin because that's what's comfortable to me. But, like, I mean, you may see, like, a Mountain King third in some situations. A Blood Mage third would probably be pretty strong. Those would probably be the three main options. Mountain King, Paladin, Blood Mage. I don't think you'd see another Tavern Hero. Probably not. Fire Lord, Soulburn, and Lava Spawn. I don't know. But probably Blood Mage, Mountain King, or Paladin. Game 2 of that series, Linguagua actually won versus that strat. Yep. He definitely did. He definitely did. You know, maybe I've never done this before either. I had another replay in mind. Let me know what you guys think. I had another replay in mind of Sock playing against a different orc and winning. But we could watch the replay from him against Linguagua where he lost. If that would be more helpful. Do you guys think it would be useful to watch another replay where Sock wins, or a replay where he loses, as our last replay today? I'll leave it up to you guys. What would be more useful for you guys? Both work for me. You want to see Sock? Want to see how Sock loses? It might be because, like, maybe he misses some of the timings. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so cool. We were gonna watch Sock versus Zhao Kai, but Zhao Kai did a really weird strategy. He goes Shadowhunter second and goes Mass Windriders, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, let's watch the loss. Okay, so let's actually take a short break. I'll get the next replay prepared, and we'll be back in 5 minutes with the last replay of the day. Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, we're back. We are back. I got the replay downloaded, so we're going to check out Sock's loss in the same series. So that would have been game 1 against Linguagua, and we saw Linguagua making a lot of great adjustments to the strategy. The Spike Barricades, the Shockwave, the Grunt before 5th and 6th Headhunter. A lot of nice adjustments. So you can see why Linguagua was actually able to win this game just based off making nice adjustments. But let's see what mistakes Sock makes. Does he miss the timing? Like, if I were to guess what's going to go wrong in this game, because I've never seen it before. This is actually the first time we'll be covering a replay that I haven't seen, other than the community replay review stuff. We'll be covering a replay I've never seen. So if I have to guess what would go wrong, he's going to miss the shop burrow timing at the second dot of night. Maybe he's only able to get like one tier 2 cancel at the 4th dot of night. Maybe he loses a few too many footmen. Maybe on the very, very early game, he's going to struggle to get level 2. But I'll have to guess that Sock losing this game, he's probably going to lose it within the first 5 minutes. Like, maybe the game goes on a little bit longer than that, but he'll probably be at such a disadvantage after the initial 6 minutes that he's going to not be able to come back. That's going to be my guess, but let's see. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Let's see. So here's the last replay of the day. Replay number 3. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out together, guys. Here we go. So here's Sock. And maybe Linguagua doesn't even play Farseer Headhunters. Maybe straight text or something. Am I totally wrong? Well, I haven't seen the game, so it's whatever. And probably Farseer Headhunters will confirm that. Does something really bad happen? I mean, if he loses both heroes to creeps, then, you know. Okay, It will be Farseer Headhunters. We'll wait for the War Mill to confirm it. Okay, yeah, we're gonna see the War Mill. Okay, Farseer Headhunters has been confirmed. And we'll keep an eye on the build of Sock, see if he does anything different. These were back-to-back games. Ah, okay, so Sock ends up getting ahead, but then makes a big mistake. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense as well. In that case, maybe we could actually learn some more stuff from this, even though he loses.
Job's done.
See that tower coming up. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, you know why maybe he's doing this? Because he's going to attempt to get the priest. Because I was just talking about this in replay 1, if there's ever a reason to do this. Is the reason you do this to get the priest? Possibly? Let's see if the footman goes there. Let's see, let's see. I'm guessing that's why. So that you have the supply to get the priest so it doesn't get stolen. That can be the only, that's the only reason. That's the only reason.
Job's done. Our forces are under attack.
Because notice, if he didn't have the third farm up already and he wanted to buy the priest right now, he would actually not have enough supply because he needed to build this footman. So maybe that's why he builds that farm, whereas he wouldn't on other maps. But I could just be completely wrong. Maybe there's a good reason to build that farm before the tower. But either way, again, I digress.
Our forces are under attack. Job's done.
Circlet. Okay, footman not able to actually see what the build order is from Linguagua, so we're kind of in the dark, but we can still assume. We can still assume. And it's going to be much trickier for us to actually get level 2, because our level 2 would normally be off the Murlocs. If we can get a last hit here, though, that'd be incredibly strong. Or what does it take, 4 wolves? 3 wolves. There's 1. And I don't think Sock is wrong to engage right now. The reason he's doing so is because the Farseer is actually taking quite a bit of damage. But this is a lot more aggressive than Sock was in the last games, right? The last 2. But now he's starting to run away, but he took some damage on this footman. Still tech underway, all standard stuff.
Our forces are under attack.
He goes no Arcane Tower with the strat. Yeah, I think that when human players get away with stuff like that, or any player, for instance, gets away with stuff like that, I think it's just a respect thing.
Our forces are under attack.
Right? Like, when orcs, instead of insta-harassing in this matchup, for instance, instead creep level 2, I think that's a respect thing, whereas most players you'd play on ladder will just always immediately harass you. But it's a respect thing at the top level, I think, why you see some weird stuff in these games. And that maybe no Arcane Tower is because Chimiko knows people won't try to pressure him like that. Okay, so a big difference already in this game. Look at the damage on the footman. And look how difficult the level 2 was to get. Yes, Sock's been able to put some damage on the Farseer. This may be an illusion here. Let's check. Sorry, let's check. Okay, it's not an illusion. But he's taken a lot more damage. The level 2 was a lot more costly, and he was able to cancel the shot, but he wasn't able to cancel the third burrow, at least yet. He could still come back in. But already he's taken a lot more damage on the footman than he would otherwise like to. Look at this footman even, too. A lot of damage taken on the footman, and we said this is something you want to avoid at all costs if you can. He did it for a reason, but... Wait, this is an illusion? Then why did it not... I'm losing my mind. I don't know. Five footmen that defend, just like before. Oh, this pressure is actually going to kind of pay off. A headhunter goes down.
Job's done.
It's pretty good.
Job's done. Research complete.
Okay, footman going to the base. Little bit of an unorthodox sort of harass, like a lot less clean than we've seen in the last games, right? Like not as clean at all. And like all these headhunters, they're gonna get a shop cancel, but these all like, or all these footmen rather, they all just might die, and like he's healing back. This just looks a lot more messy. Yes, he's gotten some kills, but a lot more messy than the last two games, I have to say.
Our forces are under attack.
And it's almost as though the pressure's already done. There's been no Beastmaster picked up yet, but this is what I mean. Like, he's been able to kill 2 headhunters, whoops. He's been able to cancel the shop. But now, like, he's got 3 half HP, close to being half HP footmen. He's lost another 3 footmen. I think he only built 6, not 7. Okay, here's the 7th this game. But, you know, and the harass is kind of almost over. He's going to pick up a Beastmaster. Maybe he's going to be able to get the tier 2 cancel, but it's definitely not as much as he's been able to do the last 2 games. Because he's invested, I think the reason why this happened is because he invested so much hit points earlier into trying to trade with the Farseer and the Headhunters, which allowed him to get 2 kills, but he also has lost a couple of footmen too. But let's see what he's able to get done. He goes for Quill Beast, which of course is the goal is to cancel the tier 2, not to necessarily kill any more Headhunters. He's power building the Sanctums just like before, so it all looks the same. Just the actual movement of the early game was different so far. Okay, he could definitely get this Spirit Lodge. He's gonna get another Headhunter. The multitasking has got to be difficult. Oh, that's an illusion, actually. Okay.
Our forces are under attack.
So he's gotten the Spirit Lodge, a shop, and 2 Headhunters, which I would say is enough damage. I would say that's definitely enough damage. There was no burrow cancel. There was no Farseer kill this time. But, you know, assuming he doesn't lose every single footman, I think that he's done enough damage. He might even kill a grunt. Yeah, that's good. He's gonna kill a grunt too. Yeah, so this is good. How many footmen has he lost? This is gonna be number 4, I think. He built 7 this game. He's got 2 left, so he lost 5 footmen for this so far. Oh, and he's going to lose the Beastmaster as well. So it's starting to be a lot. He's going to lose the TP as well. So this is starting to be quite a few losses. He might not even get this either. So let's think about this a little bit. So he lost his Beastmaster, 5 footmen, a TP, all the health on his Archmage. He killed 2 Headhunters, a Grunt, a Shop, and a Spirit Lodge got cancelled. So actually, he didn't even trade favorably. Whereas the last games, he was able to lose. He lost some stuff. But the first game, for instance, he lost only a couple of footmen and he did tremendous damage. The second game, he did almost game-winning damage, but he lost his Beastmaster, lost 4 footmen. But this game, he's actually done the least amount of economic damage or army damage, and he's lost the most. This is the most costly harass Sok has done of the 3 replays. And he didn't get even a burrow cancel. He didn't get both tier 2 cancels. He only got 1 cancel, so although the harass is acceptable, it's worth noting this is the worst it's gone for him of all 3 games. And like I said, up to this point, this is the most important stage probably of this entire strategy, is up to this point. Why did this happen? Because he traded so often in the early game, I think. His footmen were already low. And notice he had to go back to the shop to heal with the Archmage and those 2 footmen. Well, 3 footmen and a water elemental went into the main base. All 3 of those footmen died. So this is all because he traded so much in the early game, which was for a good reason. He killed 2 Headhunters, but then the harass just wasn't good past that point. Maybe even this would be a good game for him to not go for the Beastmaster and instead just go for the Mountain King. Because he's already killed a couple of Headhunters. You know, his footmen are very low. He might not get away with the sort of damage that he's been able to do in the past. But let's see how the game unfolds. So he TP's back home. He's got to heal up. He should have a couple of priests on the way. Yeah, he's got the priests already out, so they're well-timed. Back controlling the AM as well. Should have gotten the... Yeah, he definitely could have gotten that Lodge again, too. Yeah. And if he had gotten that second Lodge cancel, that would be a pretty big deal. That would have made the TP worth it, for sure. Again, though, the Quill Beast being used very well. He's going to be able to cancel probably some salves.
Our forces are under
The
attack.
illusions are
Job
being
done.
used very well here by Linguagua. Creep that right away. Beastmaster back out. What's the experience like, too? Yeah, the Beastmaster barely got any experience.
Our forces are under attack.
The priest got stolen. That was a bit weird. Yeah, that's just a weird choice to buy that priest. I don't know why he did that.
Our forces are under attack.
I assume this is the third Sork. He's actually getting Adapt on the priest before the third Sork, which is different from how he's done it before, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. He, of course, invested in double mercenaries, so maybe that's why.
Search
The
complete.
Quill Beasts continue to harass there. Oh, he left the tomes. That's why he lost, guys. He left the tomes. Unbelievable. Okay, now he's expanding, but... Oh, we got a little bit of a... this might be an illusion as well, though, but we kind of cheated a bit. But this expansion, we've been talking about how he's been expanding when he's felt safe. But I don't feel safe right now for Sok. He doesn't have level 3 on the Beastmaster. He just got level 3 on the Archmage, but has no Town Portal. He's got no Invis. He doesn't have any Breakers quite yet. He's only got a few Priests, pretty much. He doesn't even have a third Sork yet. So I'm a little bit afraid that if Linguagua picked up like the Berserker and he's coming across the map right now with what could be very close to a level 3 Tauren Chieftain, Sok doesn't even have a heal scroll. I'm a little bit afraid for this expansion timing. A little bit afraid. And again, we cheated a bit because we saw the Farseer, but this could be an illusion as well. Maybe Linguagua isn't even pushing at all, and I don't think he'd be pushing right now. I think he's probably creeping this Shop of the Lap, let's see, or the expansion maybe, one of those three. Okay, he's creeping the expansion. Almost level 3. Almost level 3. He's going to need to take, like, probably these and then go across. Yeah, this isn't as safe as the past 2 expansions have been.
Job's done.
This Farseer is buying a lot of time, too, for Linguagua to get level 3 on the TC. Is he creeping these? Oh, he's actually taking the shop. What a madman.
Our forces are under attack.
Okay, level 3 Beastmaster will be good, but a heal scroll's kind of needed as well.
Under siege.
Ooh, the Arcane's not up yet either. Priest go back, though. That's nice. Has Adept on time. Is there even a third Sork yet, though? There's still not even a third Sork. And the Quill Beasts this whole time haven't been as aggressive as they were in the past games because the Beastmaster was so late to get level 3. This is the same fight timing, though, that we've seen in the past couple of games. The expansion is just about to get up. The heroes hit 3-3, and then Sok takes a big fight. This is the weakest Sok has been at this stage in the game, though, but he still might have a decent shot. But Linguagua is going to have a speed scroll, he's got heal scroll. So this fight might not go as well as the past fights have gone, but this is still a very... This is the same timing we've seen in the last 2 games. Yeah, the reason he's always taken this fight, Dondelari, the reason he takes it is just to secure the expansion and to also delay the counter expansion from the Orc. But in this situation, again, the expansion was a little bit greedy. I think it was a little bit early, and because of that, the fight is now a little bit early, and I think he's just going to get owned here, possibly. He's probably going to get this devoured, Chain Wave, lose all the casters, be left with 2 heroes with no TP and no mana. Most likely. Let's see, though. Let's see. And he doesn't have a third Sork yet, so he really doesn't have the slow that he needs. Because the Shamans they have mana. And he doesn't have a heal scroll. Yeah, like, Sok is following sort of the step-by-step that he's done in the other games, but in this game, he was much further behind than he had been.
Forces are under attack.
But it's cool to see that he's still fighting at the same time. He's still fighting at the same time. It just wasn't a good fight this time, but it was still for the same purpose as the last. So that's kind of really interesting to see, actually, but it's just obviously not working out. And now the expansion is just going to be broken. There's even a salve left for that TC. So cool. This is so cool. Only one Arcane as well. Again, a little bit of greed. We saw double Arcane, actually, from Ivory Towers in the first game, which was very, very safe.
Our forces are under attack.
Do we have a counter expansion, by the way? We don't. Which hasn't even been scouted by Sock yet. No, it's cool that there's consistencies from this game to the other games. And that Sock is actually following these consistencies, even though it didn't work this time. He's not just fighting for no reason, he's actually fighting for the same reason he has in the last games. That's what's cool about it. That's what's cool about it. But he just wasn't simply strong enough this game, and Linguagua hadn't taken enough actual damage.
Under siege.
And really, a big thing might have also been the fact that Beastmaster died and there was no, like, Quill harass follow-up on sort of like these. Like, he did send the Quill, but then he bought, like, a Priest for some reason and just fed more experience. And the Quill wasn't here stopping this creeping. He wasn't here really to stop this creeping. The follow-up summon harass after the Spirit Lodge cancel wasn't really there this game either, which is a tricky thing to probably do perfect consistently, but that is something that he was able to do in the last two games as well, that he didn't do as well this game. Yeah, this game is over. Over. Is there an expansion coming up? Yup. Still no Adept for the Sorks either. Like, Sock is just so far behind macro-wise. Like, he didn't have 3 Sorks, he didn't have Adept on the Sorks, he didn't have the single Breaker. And that would even be early, because like in the last games, remember he was expanding at 4 Priests, 4 Sorks, 1 Breaker, with Adept on both of his casters. That's when he was expanding. This game he expanded at 3 Priests, 2 Sorks, with only Adept on the Priests. And he had a Berserker. That's when he expanded. Much, much earlier than he was capable of. IMO. IMO. Okay, now the Quills are going. Actually, this might be able to be cancelled if Sock goes straight up with it. It's a bit of a trademark by Sock, by the way. He's a pretty innovative with builds, but seems to be a bit too dependent on following the recipe. Yeah, I have noticed that when he streams quite often. Chimiko, as a counter example, seems like a bit more adapting build strategies on the fly. Absolutely agree, 100%. Yeah, Chimiko's also much better at sort of, he's almost like a Fly sort of character, where he's very good at pulling a rabbit out of a hat in certain situations just because of his mechanics. Chainwave, baby. Yeah, level 5 TC already, just crazy. And we can see how much is dependent on that initial harass. Sock was not able to get ahead enough. He was not able to get the expansion safely secured enough, lost a fight, and now he's just going to keep losing fights because the Orcs heroes scale better. And that's how you lose with it, apparently. That was more instructive than the third replay would have been, for sure. That third replay was garbage that I was going to show, so I'm glad we watched that. Glad we watched that. But that was fun. I like that. That's a nice little strategy we covered today. And it's a new strategy, too. I love covering new strategies, which I don't get to do too often because there's not always new strategies around. Sock did not unleash the beast. Well, he did technically unleash the beast. He did. He did. He had a Beastmaster. Just didn't work. Just didn't work, man. Ah, that was fun. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Yeah, like I said, I'll put down, this is my opinion. Again, I didn't have a lot of time to study this last replay, or any at all, really, than I just watched it the one time with you guys right there. But if I had to guess what went wrong, I'd say the harass didn't favor Sock. Let's just recount what he lost and what Linguagua lost. I'll write down what he lost first. He lost 5 footies, TP plus Beastmaster. That's what he lost. Linguagua lost 2 Headhunters plus Grunt and Lodge plus Shop cancel. So that's about even. Maybe. 5 footies and the Beastmaster probably easily equal 2 Headhunter and a Grunt. And then the TP for the Lodge and Shop cancel. The Shop cancel really isn't a big deal at all. It's not really. The Burrow cancel is much more impactful. I've also seen the strategy with Panda as well. Yeah, I was going to cover Panda as well as Beastmaster, but I just didn't have the replays. So I have literally not seen a single game of the Panda yet. So maybe another episode will be done on that. That's what I was saying earlier. Maybe I'll do another human episode this month if there's more replays like this that come out, because I'd like to study the Panda second as well. But I just simply haven't seen any games yet. I know there were a couple Hitman vs. Todd replays on War 3 Info, but they were both like super late game with like 7/7 heroes. So probably not overly instructive. They were probably just super epic games. So that's what they lost. And, you know, although you could say Sock maybe came out ahead slightly, you're not supposed to come out ahead slightly. You're supposed to have an advantage after this initial harass. Right? So he had, you know, he came out slightly after the initial harass, and then he expoed early. How early did he expo? Well, he expoed with 2 Sorks and 3 Priests and Adept on Priests. That's when he expoed. And he also had 3/3. That's just a gimme. But in the other games, he was expoing with 4 Priests, 4 Sorks, Adept on both, plus 1 Breaker. That's when he was expoing before. Right? So you could just compare these. You could just compare these two. And he did lose the fight and then lost his expo because of that. So those are probably the 2 main mistakes. That was it. Two big mistakes there. Yeah, I'm excited to see Chaemiko's version of this strategy for sure. And maybe that could be the other side of this when I do another episode on this. If I do, maybe I'll do Chaemiko doing a similar strategy, maybe Chaemiko with Panda, and then maybe check out one of his Beastmaster styles to see. It's always nice to see how they differ. It's nice to see how, like, you know, Lin and Focus differ, or Lin and Fly differ. It's good to see how, like, Happy and 120 differ, which I did an episode on that. Moon and Laliat, or Moon and Colorful. It's good to compare the 2 sort of top players of each race. Beastmaster's on more of a hard time as opposed to Panda because of late game scaling. 100%. 100%, yeah. But you're not able to gain as big of an advantage early on with the Panda, because you can't get tier 2 cancels, you can't get as many Headhunter kills, stuff like that. You might not even be favored early at tier 2 with a Panda. So there's trade-offs, for sure. There's trade-offs. Panda might be easier to play overall, I would say, because you're not so reliant on hitting those clean timings and actually doing damage. So of these 2, it might be Panda to be the simpler. Any strategy where you're just reliant on, let me just get to the late game, it's always a little bit easier than the strategies that rely on, I need to do damage early. And what's next week? What are we doing? I think next week is Orc Day, right? Gonna have to figure out what to do for that. That'll be next week's episode. Farseer Headhunters? I don't think I'm going to do an episode on Farseer Headhunters. I'm gonna have to. Oh, I might do. Maybe I'll do Orkmere and do Blade Master versus Farseer Headhunters. That could be fun. That could be fun. And there's a lot of replays for that too, so that might not be too hard to plan. Maybe I'll do that. I'll think about it though. I'll think about it. And then there is 5 Thursdays this month, but I might take the last Thursday off to sort of make sure August is bang-a-rangin'. But I'll keep you guys posted a week before every episode, right? So next week will be Orc though. Next week will be Orc. We'll probably do Orkmere. I think that's definitely what I'm gonna do. And that was fun. I enjoyed this episode. Short, sweet, concise, but we think we learned about the strategy. I think we got a good idea of it. And what I love about doing new strategies as well is we can watch them develop. Now when you guys go watch WGL tonight, because Remo and Neo are both casting. I don't know if Bidu's back on. Maybe he is. But when you go watch WGL tonight and you see an Orc against Human and you see a Beastmaster second, we all have a better idea of what the hell's going on. That's what I love about covering these new strategies. Because when you watch games, you can enjoy them way more. Because now we know what we're looking at. And those of you that actually play the game, maybe you can take the strategies and try it out. But, like, you know, a lot of us just probably like watching the game. And it makes, at least for me, doing this show, makes watching the game way more enjoyable because I actually know what's going on. Ever since I did the Foggy versus Happy episode, watching Undead versus Night Elf is so much more enjoyable for me. Was it Beastmaster second versus Orc? Yeah, it was. Beastmaster second versus Orc, which has been a new developing strategy in the last couple of weeks. Academic, yeah, I don't know about that one. All right, so shout out, of course, to the sponsor CORSAIR, !CORSAIR in the chat. You can use the coupon code BACK2WARCRAFT for 10% off at checkout. And shout out, of course, to our patrons, which a couple of them are in chat. We appreciate you guys very much. Of course, the 500 € Golden Goat patron, as always, is Knubby Quakes. Love you, love you, love you. We're gonna have our, I think we're gonna have our custom game evening pretty soon. Those of you that are listening, I think we'll have it in the next week or something like that. I think. And the 50 € Midas tier patrons, we have Toxie, Grinchy, Jgats, 123, N Padroot, Save Orcas, Scription, and Teggy. And our 25 € profit tier patrons, we have Burning Blades, Dondalare, and that's it. The 2 in chat are the 2 at the 25 € profit tier. Appreciate you guys very much. This is a very fun episode. I enjoyed it. And I enjoying these episodes. So thank you to everyone in chat. Thank you to everyone watching. And we'll see you, I'll see you on Saturday for the America's Closed qualifier of DreamHack. Saturday and Sunday, I'll be covering that. But Neo Remo will be back in 12 hours exactly for WGL. So make sure to go check it out if it's not 3 a.m. for you like it is for me. Have a good day. Have a good night. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.